How you doing, Coach? Just curious with when you have the offensive line, everyone, tops in the league, and you've got a Quenton Nelson, two-time first-team All-Pro his first 2 years. How do you keep someone like him, I don't say motivated, but to where complacency doesn't even creep into his game?
Yeah. I think you don't become a guy like Quenton Nelson without having this burning desire to get better all the time. And he really does since the day I walked in the building. And I know he was saying it before I got here, but he has this tremendous desire to be the best that's ever played. And when you got that mindset, you're always in that mode of when you go out on the football field of, hey, what can I get better at? And I think one thing that maybe, people don't know about a guy like Quenton Nelson, really all of our guys, is they see the faults in themselves way more than any of us do. And, it's the nature of all of us as coaches as well, right? We see all of our warts so much better than what the outside world does. And so, he goes and watches film and is frustrated with things he didn't do well, while the outside world's watching film and is, so motivated by what he does do well. So I just think he's so driven to be the best that I don't think he ever is in that mindset of, here we go again.
Can you share any of his warts?
Absolutely not.
Okay, thanks, Coach.
Yeah.
Kevin Bowen.
Chris, staying on that topic, I'm sure in the evaluation period after each year, you kind of sit down, go over film with your guys. What is that film session like with Quenton? Is it shorter than most? What is kind of the atmosphere in the room like?
He's I guess I go back to the thing I just said where he's so driven. He doesn't want that to be short. He wants me to critique every little thing with him. And I've heard stories over the years about when Peyton was here and what he said to Jim Caldwell when he was a quarterback coach. And he said, hey, coach me like I'm an eighth grader. Assume I know nothing. Coach me every stinking play. And, that's really what Quenton's mindset is he wants to be coached on every little detail and have discussion about it, right? We're talking about adults that have played a lot of football and are really talented players. And so at the end of the day, there's a lot less things to coach these guys on than if it's a freshman in college coming out of high school, that there's so much stuff. And so, we got to really work to find little things to clean up. And with our craft being what it is, it ends up being, the same things repetitive time and time again. And so, but I also think that mindset of not getting bored with the mundane is important. And one of the things that makes Quenton and really that whole group so good in terms of wanting to improve.
Joel Erickson.
With Joe Haeg being gone now, what's the picture look like at that swing tackle position behind Anthony and Braden, and how do you see that shaking out?
Yeah, so we got a couple guys right there that are competing. I say competing. We haven't done anything yet, but that will be competing when we really start playing football with Chaz Green and LaRaven Clark. And then we signed, an undrafted free agent from Canada, Carter O'Donnell. So, but really with the experience that LaRaven has in our offense, and then also Chaz has played a fair amount of football when he was in Dallas. And so those two guys for sure have to really step up and compete and, try and find a way for us to get, what we had in Joe Haeg the last couple of years.
Phil B.
Hey, Coach, thank you for your time. I was going to ask you the same question about offensive tackle depth. I guess to piggyback off Joel's question, do you have any guys that you see enough flexibility in that in a pinch they could move out to tackle if you needed it, one of your guards or center?
Yeah, we do. Andrew Donnell is a guy that's playing guard for us right now, but he's also going to get some tackle reps. He's a guy that has to, for him to really be competitive and add value to this roster, he's a guy that has to play some different spots. Danny Pinter, is probably more of a guard body type or center body type in the NFL. He has played some tackle in college. And so, if he needs to kick out there and get us through a game at tackle, I feel confident that he can do that. And so, really, and then also Brandon Hittner, all those guys that are really fighting for those backup spots, they know they have to be as versatile as possible. And that's really their role until they get to a starting spot, and they got to play as much as they can.
If I could follow up real quick, your assessment of Danny Pinter, what you've seen from him so far?
Yeah, I think he's, everything we've expected in terms of just off the charts intangibles, just such a grinder, hard worker, good teammate. He's going to be very popular in that room just because he's going to shut up and do his job, but he's still got personality and bring something to the table. His work ethic is going to be, I don't want to say unmatched because there's too many guys on this team that work hard, but his work ethic is going to be as good as anybody's. And so, hey, he's a long way away right now. He hasn't played any NFL football, and he's seeing a lot of things that he hasn't seen before, and the head's swimming a little bit. But he's doing a great job every day coming back and getting better than the last, and that's what I would expect out of Danny Pinter.
Thank you, Coach.
Zach Kiefer.
Chris, you were not here in 18, so last year was your first season. Where did your group improve from 18 to last year, and where do you feel like they still need to get better at?
I think our mission is just to be not just an elite offensive line, but consistently an elite offensive line. And so, for us to get that done in season for 16 games is our mission, right? And then hopefully we get a chance to play after that. But, I think our I don't really want to compare it to 18, but I think our group last year as the season went on improved fundamentally, which was a big mission of, both Coach Mudds and myself to really be focused on fundamentally getting these guys to take a step, our stuff. And I think as the season went on, they did. For us to take that next step and improve, we have to be more consistent with it. And we've got some specific areas that we know we want to get better, schematically. But I just think really being consistently the type of group that we have the talent to be.
Was that something that bothered you last year, the inconsistencies at times?
Sure, it always does. We expect to play really, really well every week, and there's probably rare seasons that actually happens, but that's the expectation. And so, the weeks that we didn't play to our standard, for sure frustrated. Yes, the whole group.
George Bremer.
Hi, Coach. I'm wondering, with all the changes on offense elsewhere, new receivers, new running backs, new quarterback, obviously, is there more importance on this offensive line because they've been together so long to kind of lead things early on?
Yes, and I think they feel that way regardless of what the scenario is, that they want to be the leaders on this offense, right? They want to set the tempo for this group. They want everybody to follow them. Certainly I don't think they think that way. Like, they don't look at the roster and say, hey, what are our issues? And so now we got to do something differently. I just think that's the mindset of this group. And any great offensive line is, hey, let's be the leaders for this offense.
Stephen Holder.
Hey, Coach. I know you weren't here when Braden was drafted, but I remember when he came in, we didn't quite know where he would fit in. And, Chris and everybody told us he was a guard. So we assumed he was a guard, and then all of a sudden they stick him at tackle, and he looks like a tackle. I don't think he ever did it before, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know how much of his history you're aware of, but can you just kind of explain how a guy goes from not really playing that position to really, starting to excel at it the way he has? Why has he had such a natural inclination for it, do you think?
Yeah, it's pretty unique. And I remember looking at him when I was in Denver. We looked at him very closely and liked so many things about him. And really saw him as an inside guy, just like Chris and everybody else did, whether it was a guard or a center. He had played some center in college. Sometimes that's just how this thing shakes down, right? The mission is to get your best 5 guys on the field. I do think at this level that guys will typically fit into a box position-wise and specifically at tackle. But with Braden, the thing that I think just ended up shaking down over time is he's just such a grinder, so consistent. What you're going to get with Braden Smith every day. He's going to show up and compete, and he's athletic and he's strong. And, there may be some measurables that everybody doesn't love for him out there at tackle, but he makes up for them in other ways. He's got tremendously strong hands. That's an underrated thing, but everybody talks about arm length. All right. Well, arm length's important, but, if you're really good with your hands, that's important too. And, just the level that he run blocks, I just think makes a huge difference. And he's just continued to progress as a pass protector. So, I just think he's got a bright future. I think he can be tackle for a long time. And I also think that, in a pinch, everybody talked about who goes out to tackle, but at some point in his career, we may be in a pinch and he goes down to guard and can succeed there.
One quick follow-up. You talked about him as a run blocker, and I know that's where he has really excelled. I know everybody wants to be physical as run blockers, but you guys really seem to embrace that. Does he just kind of really fit well with the personality of your group, do you feel like?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and he's, I guess, a little bit of a unique one in the room that he doesn't say much, right? He really just does not say much. When he does speak, guys listen because he doesn't speak that much. But, you know, he's just a blue-collar guy, and it's certainly the physicality part of it. I mean, I think that's what this whole room embraces, wanting to be as good as anybody in terms of being physical. And by all means, that plays into the strengths of his game.
We'll go two more. Joel Erickson.
Coach, you mentioned Coach Mudd. For you, obviously knowing him really well, and the offensive line knowing him really well, have you guys just been kind of trying to keep up with Shirley and everything as he goes through this in Washington?
Yeah, checking in daily, not with Shirley specifically. Obviously, she's very, very busy and communicating to a lot of people. So, but, you know, there is a website that we're able to check in and kind of get updates on. And I have had a text exchange with her, and we're thinking about him every day. And, hey, we all know that this is one tough sucker. And so, you know, if anybody can pull himself out of this, it's going to be Coach Mudd, and we're praying for him for sure, and looking forward to getting back and getting back him watching Colts football.
Last question, Kevin Bowen.
Hey, Chris, when you look at your guys' health last year up front, obviously all 16 games is pretty rare. Do you consider fortunate to have had that? And do you find yourself like needing to ingrain in some of those reserves this offseason? Like, that's not always the case. You've got to keep on preaching, you know, one play away, because that's usually normal offensive line health.
Yeah, for sure. We were very fortunate to get that done last year, and fortunate combined with, you know, some tough guys, right? There's nobody that's feeling good throughout the entire season. And so those guys did a great job pushing through it and taking care of their bodies and being great pros and really preparing themselves for the entire season. And so that was tremendous. And I've said forever to, you know, to guys that aren't the starters, hey, your time's coming pretty quick. And last year was one of those years that didn't happen. And so I got to remind them again, it's coming. You know, I don't want it to come, but it's coming. And so, you know, they know the nature of this sport at this level, and that it's very, very rare for everybody to play. And that's a huge part of where we're at right now in our room is to develop legitimate next guys, all right, our 6th, 7th, and 8th guy. And that's a huge part of everybody's mission right now. Like, the starters understand the importance of that. And is it even a bigger deal this year? Potentially. We don't know, right? We don't know what's going to shake down in our room in terms of COVID and all that stuff. And so not only myself is really in that mindset of developing the next guys, but our guys understand how important that is. And so our guys are very anxious to coach the guy behind them and help them get better.